A warlord! Is that true, Robin? Shouted Luffy in surprise. He didn't expect to find one of the 7 warlords here, on this island, but his surprised expression quickly changed. He was excited and couldn't wait to find this Gecko Moria person. Yes, he's a man of many mysteries, said Robin as one drop of sweat fell across her forehead. She heard some things about Moria which weren't that good, but what's a guy like that doing here, in a place like this? Asked Frankie, who couldn't figure out why would a man of that status be here, on this island. I dunno, but there are a lot more victims like me that got lost in this forest. The fact that you guys were invited here too, I'm positive that Moria has his eyes on you, stated the old man, who couldn't take it anymore and started to cry. The others waited for the old man to continue with his story while Broly stood there with very thin patience. He didn't care about the old man's story and about retrieving his lost shadow. He just wanted to fight already. He wasn't in a real battle since the day he arrived on this planet, and he couldn't take it anymore. If they spent even a minute more with this crying old man, he will go on his own and track down this Moria person. Broly turned toward the old man, who between the sobs managed to continue his story. We hide in the dark of this remaining forest, afraid of the zombies, frightened to sail to the open sea and be exposed to the sun. In any case, this body doesn't feel alive anymore. Just one more time before I die. I want to walk into the sunlight, yelled the old man in tears while he was kneeling on the ground and with one hand on his head. The man wasn't the only one crying. The cyborg was so touched by the man's story that even he started to cry. That's so heartbreaking. Ah. Okay. I'm not worried and am not crying, shouted Frankie, all in tears, while Zoro just watched the man and couldn't believe it. You're too compassionate. Don't burden yourself like that, said Zoro as he exhaled. The man in front of him was too compassionate sometimes. Hey, Gramps. It's a lady's privilege to persuade the others with tears, spoke Sanji, on his back, also known as kneeing. They'll be certainly useful to you, Master Moria, said the third one, on which Moria just smiled and began to chuckle at that same time. Luffy and his uncompleted crew arrived at the entrance of the mansion, but just as they arrived, the rain started to fall from the sky. There was also something else that caught Luffy's attention as he looked up. Great, it started to rain pretty hard, complained Zoro while he stood behind his captain and waited for him to move on. Shall we run to the mansion? Asked Frankie, who wasn't too happy about the idea to get all wet. Wait a moment. There's something above the mansion. Is that a mark? Asked Luffy, who caught the attention from the others, and they too looked up. The fog is slowly clearing up a bit, but is that a flag? Questioned Zoro out loud, since he wasn't sure if he saw it right, but they were all soon surprised by the sudden discovery. No, wait. Wouldn't that be a sail? Yelled Frankie, who was surprised just like the others, because if this really was a sail, then that would mean only one thing. This was not an island, this is. Yes, you are right, that's a sail. It's so huge I can't comprehend it, shouted the old man while he was standing behind the pirate crew, who didn't even know that the old man was following them. Who, by the way, surprised them. You're still here, old man, yelled Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Frankie at the same time. This thriller bark is the world's largest pirate ship, stated the old man, who shocked the others by reviling this. The old man resumed with his explanation. The back of the mansion is the main mast. That's also the place where Gecko Moria is. As soon as the old man said that, Broly shifted his gaze towards the mansion and grinned. So that's the place where Moria is, spoke Sanji as he lightened up his cigarette and looked up at the mansion, to which the old man nodded, and the others just like him looked up. Well, are you guys ready? Let's go to the ghost mansion and kick Moria, eh? Before Luffy was able to finish his sentence, he was surprised by the sudden yelp from the old man and by the wind which hit him from behind. He and the others turned around only to be almost blown away by the strong force. Luckily they were strong enough to endure it, but they were surprised at where it come from. They all looked at their new crew member Broly with their eyes wide open. A strong force was unleashed from the Scion as his dark blue aura flared around him. They were speechless. They never saw anything like this in their lives. What the hell is this? What's going on? Yelled Frankie, who could barely stand in front of the strong force. He never encountered something like this. A devil fruit, maybe? I don't know. Just hang in there, shouted Sanji back to Frankie, but he also had a hard time standing in front of such force. He didn't understand what was going on with Broly all of a sudden. It was as if he just exploded. I knew this guy would be trouble. Damn it! thought Zoro, who knew that the person in front of them was not so normal, and he feared what his next move would be. While Zoro was thinking about what to do next, the old man was about to be blown away by the strong force, but he was saved thanks to Robin's extra hands. She, just like the others, was having a hard time to stand, but her devil fruit power helped her. She sweated and with amazement in her eyes watched the scion in front of her. She never saw something like this, and she found it fascinating. Amazing, I can barely stand here. What kind of devil fruit did he eat? Wondered Robin while she observed the black-haired scion in front while his blue aura flared around. She was fascinated by the color, which she found beautiful, but she snapped from her thoughts when she heard Luffy yelling, "Broly, what are you doing? What's going on?" Yelled Luffy at the scion. He didn't know what was going on. He feared that something was wrong with his friend. He didn't even for a second thought that this might be a power of the devil fruit. The tall scion heard what his captain asked and only chuckled as he glanced at them. He saw the looks on their faces, which he found hilarious. They didn't even know the true extent of his power, and they already had such a hard time to stand in front of him. He moved his head up and looked at the mansion in front of him. "I'm going to kill him. Don't cross my path if you wish to live," declared Broly, who surprised the others by what he said, but they were about to be shocked when they saw the scion blast in the sky, leaving behind a small crater on the ground. The others covered their faces because of the wind and the dust as the scion flew off towards the top floor of the mansion. When the smoke cleared, the others just stood there with shocked expression on their faces. The man in front of them just flew in the sky. What the hell just happened? "He's flying!" yelled Frankie, whose eyes almost came out because of the shock. He couldn't believe what he just saw. He suddenly exploded like that and flew in the sky. What is he thinking going on like that? But he probably ate a devil fruit, stated Sanji, who didn't know of any other explanation than this. But somewhere deep inside he wasn't so sure, and he wasn't the only one. Maybe he's using that same technique that those CP9 guys used. Either way, we should go inside and look for Nami, Usopp, and Chopper, said Zoro, on which Frankie and Sanji agreed. They totally forgot about those three, and they needed to find them fast. "Luffy, let's go," Zoro called his captain, but nothing. Zoro turned towards his captain when he saw how sparkly he was. The swordsman just facepalmed and mumbled something while Luffy just stared at the trail Broly left behind. "Wow, so cool," shouted Luffy, who was amazed by what Broly just did and didn't even notice Sanji and Frankie, who were punching and kicking him for such a childish behavior at a time like this. "Now is not the time, you idiot. My dear Nami must be terrified, and they're all alone without me," yelled Sanji angrily as he kicked Luffy, who couldn't say a thing. "He's right." "Hey, what about the deer and the long nose?" asked Frankie after he punched Luffy in the face. "What about them?" said Sanji back, only to be interrupted by the swollen Luffy, who just laughed. He, don't worry, they will be fine. "Let us go. I want to fight too," laughed Luffy, who stood up as he adjusted his hat and with the others walked inside the court and headed to the mansion's doors. As they walked toward the doors, Robin couldn't but not think of Broly. He was such a mystery to her, and she wanted to know more about him. She snapped from her thoughts when Luffy broke the doors and walked inside. Few seconds before Broly suddenly erupted and flew towards the mansion. Moria finally woke up and laughed at the news that he heard. He was thrilled. He heard what the Straw Hats pirates did, and he couldn't ask for better specimens than them. He had a wonderful idea about what to do with them, especially with their captain. "I see, Straw Hat Luffy, yeah. Wonderful. Call the generals to come here immediately." He laughed Moria, on which the three little men nodded and immediately ran to inform the generals, but they stopped when they felt the ground under their feet shake. They looked at each other when they heard a loud explosion not too far from them. The three of them fell on their butts while Moria wondered what the hell was that, huh? "What was that?" asked Moria, who didn't have any idea that someone was coming after him. Moria looked at the three men on the floor, looking for answers, but just like him, they didn't know what that was when suddenly they heard footsteps. For each second that passed, the footsteps were closer and closer when suddenly they stopped just in front of his bedroom doors. For a second, Moria thought that whoever it is, he was killed by his wall zombies, but he was proven wrong when the doors were knocked down. Moria wasn't pleased by this, and he was sure to torture the one who dared to do this. The intruder walked into the room with a smirk on his face and looked at the big man sitting in front of him. The man in front of him was a lot taller than he was, but he was also a lot fattier. The man had a purple hair with two horns just beneath it. His skin tone was pale blue, which remained Broly of an alien he encountered few years ago, but Broly snapped from that and just walked towards his prey. He was curious to see how strong and what kind of power this man has. The Scion blood in him was boiling for a fight and challenge. As Broly walked towards him, Moria carefully observed the man. He never saw this man, and he knew that this guy wasn't in Straw Hat's crew last time he checked, or maybe he was a new one and came here to fight him. Moria just laughed at that thought and stood up, which caught Broly's attention. Hi, suppose you were one of Straw Hat Luffy's crew members, right? Asked Gecko Moria, but he received no answer from the Scion, who observed his surroundings when he noticed 3 small men in front of Moria with their weapons out. When he received no answer, Moria was getting a little frustrated. Who does he think he is? Ignoring MNE like this. But he will soon tremble in fear, just like the rest. Hi, thought Moria, and laughed at his imagination, and how nice of this man was to come to him only to give him his shadow. It's so nice of you to come here to give me your shadow. But tell me, where's your captain? I have great plans, and he's a big part of it. Hi, asked Moria, but once again no answer come from Broly, which made Moria angry. Moria yelled at the Scion, how dare he, and nobody ignore him. Answer my question, you idiot. Tell me where exactly is your stupid captain? Yelled Moria angrily at Broly, only to receive a dangerous glare from the Scion. For a moment, Moria felt uneasy, but that quickly changed when he felt a lot of pain. Before he could even process what happened, he was punched in the face, which sent him crashing into the wall. The 3 little men screamed, afraid for their boss life. Master Moria. Are you all right, Master? Gore! How dare you hit our master like that? Let's get him, guys! Yelled the one with the sword, on which the other 2 nodded and together rushed towards Broly, who just with a swing of his hand blew away the attackers, who crashed the window and fell down. Broly was about to turn towards Moria when he noticed that the man he punched was up with a mad look on his face. How dare you do this? I will show you not to mess with me, and when I'm done with you, I will steal your shadow. Hi, stated Gecko Moria, who was bleeding, but he ignored that and laughed at Broly, who waited for Moria to attack. He wanted to see Moria's devil fruit powers and then kill him. The Scion just stood there when he saw that something was going on around Moria, who still laughed. Hi, you're finished, Black Bat. Yelled Moria, who unleashed 100 of black dots, which turned out to be shaped like bats. The bats attacked Broly, who dodged few of them, but some even managed to bite him, which he didn't like one bit. The Scion stopped dodging and punched and kicked the bats, who on the end dropped on the ground. The Scion thought that everything was over and was about to attack Moria when he noticed that the fool in front was laughing at him. Broly didn't understand why, but he soon did when he was hit from behind his back. The Scion took few steps forward, and when he turned around he was surprised when he was a replica of Moria, but this one was dark just like a shadow. Hi, shocked are you not? Well, you were a fool coming here to fight me, and even though I would like to take your shadow now, I will do it later. I have to catch your captain, bye. Said Moria, who ran towards the exit, but Broly wasn't about to let him go. The Scion just disappeared and was about to kick Moria from behind, but what he kicked wasn't Moria, it was his shadow clone. Broly grunted something and quickly grew irritated of this, because at first, he thought that the man would give him a challenge and fight, but this guy only relied on this. Cheap tricks! Broly once again kicked the shadow, but when he saw that Moria wasn't in his eyesight, he was mad. Broly didn't even saw that the clone resurrected again when he released his anger. The whole mansion, no, the whole ship trembled under Broly's anger when the room exploded. The black-haired Scion flew out from the destroyed room mad at Moria and mostly himself. He was sure that if his father was here that he would mock him and yell at him how pitiful he was, a lowly creature like Moria to trick him like that and escape. Broly gritted his teeth in anger while his black hair spiked a little, but then he saw something on the ground that was on the run. The Scion looked down and saw Moria there, running. Without wasting any more time, the Scion flew into the forest, but little did Broly know that he was once again tricked. Hi, what a fool to be tricked that easily, but I must admit that I'm impressed how much his punch hurt. Damn it, how did he destroy my room? Anyway, it's time to catch the Straw Hat, and then I will be unstoppable. Hi, laughed Moria from the shadows and quickly walked away, very confident in his big plans.